Hello students, going to give you the safety information on the bandsaw. So let's get started here. I think we have 15 questions. Our first question is a general question. You've seen it and heard it on all the other machines. What's the closest you want to be to the cutter head at any time? Do you remember? Same on the table saw, same on the joiner, same on the radial arm saw, miter saw, 6 inches. So question number 1, 6 inches is the safety margin on the bandsaw. Next question, the guards on the bandsaw should be adjusted. I've shown you guys on the operational video for the bandsaw that you want about a 1/16 of an inch, so that needs to be lowered. Let's loosen it here, lefty-loosey, right on our lock, and then we use our hand wheel to take the guard or guide down to within 1/4 of an inch. If you can see that, then we lock it down. So the answer for number 2, the guards must be set no more than 1/4 inch above your piece, however thick your piece is. We don't want to expose ourselves to any more blade than necessary. Okay, question number 3. The blade on the bandsaw should be installed with the teeth pointing which direction for cutting? Let's see if we can see that. Can you see that? The teeth are pointing down, okay? Yeah, so our wood goes on the bed, and then it's rotating in the clockwise direction, so we want the teeth being pointing down. Relief cuts are made with the bandsaw. They are for what? And the answer is to prevent binding of the blade. So if we're gonna cut this off, right? That's just fine. We would just go straight across that and then round it on our edge sander. But on an irregular shape like this, we want relief cuts. Let's go ahead and turn it on. Oops, yep, there we go. So I've drawn out my relief cuts, and that keeps us from binding the blade. So I would go up to, now we never want to go to the line, we want to leave our line plus a 1/16 because this cut's really rough. Then as I follow that arc, the part falls out, okay? So it doesn't bind the blade as I continue on that path, okay? So that's called a relief cut. You do your relief cuts first before you follow your profile. Okay, next question, question number 5. In freehand cutting on the bandsaw, it is safe to, and the correct answer is place your part on the table, okay? You don't want to hold it up above the table. It always would, the table helps you stabilize the part, even though we're freehanding our profile. Next question. Number 6, it is safe to place your hands in line with the blade when the bandsaw is off. We never want to have our fingers in line with the blade on or the cutter head on any machine, okay? That's another general for any of our machines. Okay, so only when the machine is not operating is the answer I'm looking for. All right, number 7. While operating the bandsaw, it is a safe practice to, and this would be considered general on drill press, on table saw, any of our machines, to have a stable stance, okay? You don't want to be off balance when you're cutting with machines. Okay, so number 7 is maintain a balanced stance at all time. Number 8, when you give your work your individual attention, you concentrate at the work at hand. So yeah, we've seen that one before. You always want to give the operation your full and undivided attention, right? You don't want to be distracted is what we're getting at. Number 9, the best time to remove scraps from a material, scrap material from the saw is when. So you can see my scrap material. We want to remove it when it's not only off, but also we have stopped it, okay? An exception, if you're doing a lot of work and you need to clear the scrap, you could have a scrap piece, like a long, narrow scrap piece from our scrap box. I've cleaned out our scrap box, so there's not much in there, but something like this would be perfect, wouldn't it? That way we can keep our hands 6 inches from the blade. Okay, so you could remove it with this scrap block and just push it onto the floor, and then at the end of the class period we'll be cleaning the scraps off the floor. All right, number 10, it is necessary to back, if it's necessary to back the blade out of a cut, what should you do? Stop the machine and then freehand the blade. So let's try that. If we're following this along, and let's say the parts don't come out from our relief cuts, we would back it out with it off. Now, another safety question is you want to try to prevent having to back out of a cut, okay? Because you can really pull the blade, it can bind. So what you want to do is plan your cuts out in advance, all right? But if you do have to back out, we want the machine to be off and the blade to have been stopped. That was number 10. Number 11, if too much cutting pressure has been applied to the cut, let's say you're trying to cut and it's just not cutting, so you're having to push more. That means we've got a dull blade is the answer for number 11. Then you need to let me know if it's binding or not cutting appropriate. Let me know and I'll check the blade. It's probably dull. All right, number 12, this happens once in a while. If the blade breaks on the bandsaw, shut off the power, right? And it says move away quickly and tell the instructor. The brake that you apply won't work, right? Because the blade is broken, so it's not going to stop both wheels. So one of the wheels is going to keep turning, if not both. And sometimes I've heard that the blade can come out to the side if it's broke. So you just want to get away from the machine and come and tell me. Usually that happens if you twist too much in a cut and you bind that blade up. There's a good chance that you might break it, especially smaller blades. The one we've got on there right now is pretty, I think it's 3/4 wide. All right, almost done. Whenever possible, plan cuts to avoid backing out of the curves. I've already said that, that's true. Number 14, make turns carefully and do not cut radii too small for the blade so it's twisted. That's true. We've got relief cuts on this, but if it were a really tight radius, we might need a different blade. That one's a pretty big blade, okay? So once again, make turns carefully and do not cut radii too small for the blade so that the blade is twisted. We don't want to twist the blade. Once again, that's why we do all these relief cuts. All right, number 15. Use the brake to stop the machine. Yep, never walk away with that blade still turning or moving. Use the brake, okay? And last one, it is okay to cut flat or round stock on this machine with no special setup. If you have a cylinder you're cutting, let's say we have a piece of that plastic pipe over there we're cutting to length, okay? The answer is false, okay? Is it okay to cut flat or round stock on this machine with no special setup? It's kind of a trick question. I'm looking for round, okay? if you've got something round you're cutting, it's going to want to move on you. So what we do is we have a special setup called a V block, where a V is cut out of it and it helps hold that round piece of stock. So that is a special setup. If you're doing something like that, you'd have to have my permission and I would have to make that V block for you. All right, people, that is the safety on the bandsaw. All right, next will be, I think, the drill press. Bye-bye.